Parliamentary updates.
The Rotunda Gallery opened its first exhibition for the new year, which was themed People of African Descent, Recognition, Justice and Development. Addressing the gathering was Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Bridget Anisette George.
Persons who have been following the Rotunda Gallery over its almost 3-year existence will know the subject matter of our exhibitions is often influenced by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, with the intention of spreading knowledge about Agenda 2030 and placing you, our citizens, into the conversation of achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and awakening your interest in your roles as individuals. We acknowledge that conversations can take many forms, and while in this space the conversation may not be verbal, we would like to believe that the display of creative expressions by citizens in this place strike an audible note.
Reminding those attending that 2015 to 2024 was designated the International Decade for People of African Descent, Madam Speaker said the focus of the exhibition was on Goal 11 of the Sustainable Development Goals, sustainable cities and communities.
This decade-long observance calls upon states to take concrete and effective steps by adopting national and international legal frameworks, policies and programs to combat racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance faced by people of African descent, taking into account the particular situation of women, girls, and young males.
On the current exhibition, Madam Speaker said its focus was on recognition. Relating to Trinidad and Tobago, she said we too have challenges that must be addressed.
In many ways, on a national level, much of the discrimination and conflict that are pervasive and perpetrated against people of African descent may not be overt in Trinidad and Tobago. But to deny that we do not have present-day issues and challenges in our beloved nation within our community of African descendants, which according to the last census comprises 34.2% of our populations, issues and challenges which may be structural relics of slavery and colonialism would be analogous to the ostrich burying his or her head in the ground.
Madam Speaker ended by highlighting some of the achievements of our nationals.
I close by reminding us that our small island nation of Trinidad and Tobago has produced and continues to produce many exemplary citizens who are African descended, who brought international recognition to us through their extraordinary contributions in fields of expertise spanning the sciences, engineering, philosophy, medicine, spirituality, culture, sports, the law, and the arts. While the statement is not new, it is certainly a testament to what potential, perseverance, and resilience can produce.
The Parliament channel spoke with several of the artists.
I started with carving at the age of 15. Truly, I really began carving due to a suggestion by my art lessons teacher. He said that I would best be doing carving because it matches my personality. I started it during the COVID period due to boredom and just to make up things to do. On average, it takes me like 8 to 10 hours to do each carving because I trained to do it for CXC. My culture inspired me to do this style of artwork, just to learn more about myself, my family, everybody around. I think it is great because it teaches other people about what African people went through, the trials and tribulations, how we overcame it, and the future that is to come.
the late Black Stalin inspired this, and I realized it would go in theme with Black people and how we fought against European oppression. Well, I spent all night, 3 days and all day, so probably around 72 hours. I think it's very important considering how we were so mistreated in the past. It's important to celebrate all of us, especially when there's so much heritage to recognize.
When I was thinking of this piece, creating it, I was thinking about hair, because we as African people have done so many things with our hair, and it's so fascinating. And once it was used as a treasure trove to store gold and seeds, but now it's used as a style. But there are so many stories that come from our hair, and we need to remember that it's not just simply a hairstyle, but there are so many things that we need to remember when it comes to our hair. And when it comes to the fabric, these things take hours and days of preparation. I've learned that this took me a while to do, and I understand now why it's such a vital part of our history, because it's so important and it's so time consuming, but it's so worth it to see these beautiful patterns. It took me, I think, 2 to 3 weeks, because I spent overnights working on just this part, and then it all started to come together. I got help with the hair. It took a while, but it's so beautiful now that I see it. Celebrating it is so important because it's our heritage, it's our history, and anything, just to think of all the pain and suffering that we went through, to remember that, but not to remember the sad parts, but to remember all the happy things that has come from it, even though at the time it was so horrible and it's just a terrible thing to think of. Because of that, we are now in a diverse place, and it's so much, and it's so amazing.
So my inspiration for doing these 2 pieces, so it began with this piece first, and it initially came about with a love for my hair, right? So initially I had my hair out, and I used to wear afros a lot, and I loved it, so twist out, anything like that, but at the time it was not always the in thing, and I wanted to do a piece based on loving my hair and what I was born with and appreciating it. So I developed this piece, and I also like the African culture with the necklaces and the adornments that they wear often. Some of them used to stretch their necks, things like that, and I wanted to recreate something like that. So therefore I looked at myself as well as the African culture, and that's how I developed this piece. It took me a while because I didn't know what I wanted it to say, so that eventually when I began to do it, I paused, and it took some while. But when I started this one, I had already developed what I wanted it to become, so it took about 2 days. Because when I have the idea, I sit and it's like I'm going with it. So that's how it developed over time. I think it's something worth celebrating, especially what we know about African culture is sometimes are very limited, and it's good to see us in a good light and not in just the entirety of slavery, and that is what I wanted to kind of bring forward in terms of the royal aspect of who we are and where we came from, and that's what I wanted to kind of show in these pieces.
Well, I thought the theme was very inspirational, right? I wanted, of course, to portray people of African descent in a positive light, despite the challenges we face. So that was the inspiration. Over 2 weeks, a little bit every day, because I work full time, so, 2 weeks or so. It's great because we need to be celebrated. We are people who have faced a lot of challenges, and we've contributed so much to society despite that. So we need to celebrate, we need to connect to our culture.
So this piece is entitled Anaika because the model that is modeling for the piece, her name is Anaika. When I met her, I was really intrigued by her skin and the way she carries about herself, and I thought that she was extremely beautiful. And it just got me thinking about colorism and the way we look at skin tone, and I just really thought that it would be important to paint somebody with dark skin and show how beautiful they are, and how we shouldn't judge people by their skin tone, and colorism is something we are always fighting within our diaspora, within this country, even throughout different races. So I just thought it would be nice to paint her. I work by commission, so I have to paint very quickly to get work done. So for this piece, I only had like 3 to 4 days to paint it, so I finished it within that time. I think it's beautiful. I think that African culture is such a huge part of Trinidadian culture. I think that without African culture, there's a huge chunk of our history, and we wouldn't really know who we are without that. So I think it's important to celebrate it on any chance we get.
So this piece was inspired by Vincent van Gogh, where he painted in lines, like strokes of lines, right? And with him doing that, he was able to create movements and shifts of light and shadows. So to me that was interesting how he was able to paint like that. So with this painting now, I decided to add different textures and different elements into the work instead of just doing a straight-on realistic painting. This is actually a piece I did for one of my assignments in school for one of my UE courses. So the hair on this side I embroidery with thread, and to kind of create like a thready look to emulate the curls and the kinkiness of the hair. And I use yarn wool, to kind of create like contours to show the structures and all that of the face. And I actually cut the canvas and I stuck on top of it to kind of create like a 3D effect. And I use magazine strips for the background to kind of like bring together everything like a puzzle kind of way. So the piece is mainly about just me finding different ways, technical ways and creative ways to kind of like portray the human body. This actually took like a week, 3 days basically. Yeah, so some parts have to dry because it's oils. So like all here, this took a while to dry, but in terms of this part of the face, it took like a day to dry. So I work on it Monday, I leave it to dry Tuesday, like that. I think it's very much important because, well, first of all, I'm of African descent, and I think in terms of like working itself, we need to show appreciation for our culture, and we are beautiful people.
The exhibition ran till Friday, 3rd February 2023. Stay tuned for more parliamentary updates. For more information, visit our website at www.ttparliament.org and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram.
Parliamentary updates.